Hello, brother. May I have loops? So today is Friday and a meeting day and kind of a weird week. Yeah, kind of. I have stuff I want to finish. It's not urgent, but I feel like I need to finish all of it at once. But one of the things, I've got a meeting coming up after work for this project that I have been stalling on for a number of reasons. He's not able to pay exactly right now, but I see a ton of potential in the project and in his business. And so I where I have extra time, I try to give it. I work with him on like release schedules and stuff like that. Things we can do without, breaking the bank or breaking his bank and breaking my time. Because I have a lot of projects going right now. But I've been thinking about his problem, or his next this one problem, for like months at this point. And I got that weird thing where you're like, I know exactly what I need to do, and when it comes time to do it, you're just like, no, there's a better way to do this. Like, this is the wrong way to do it. I'm positive, I'm 99% sure that when I do it this way, it's going to work. I think I figured out all the problems with it, and I think I figured out how to catch all the problems, but it still feels weird and it feels wrong. And that's like, I'll keep running into weird things, and I'll start implementing it, and then I'll have to pause it or back it out because something was weird. It was a strange thing, and it was very frustrating because I couldn't proceed on it. Well, since I've been opening my mind into new paradigms, programming paradigms, functional programming mostly, the idea, functional programming and lisps and how they function, how they work, how the flow is managed in that way, I came back to the problem, and I realized that I was looking at it backwards. I was trying to manage things from one end and how it might branch out, but the correct answer to that is to just drop a function in the middle and allow that to expand its complexity. There's no additional pages for it. It can be updated in one place. The difficult realization was that I feel as though I've significantly improved as a programmer at this point. Like, just in the past few months. Like, definitely in the past 6 months. Significantly. And now I have a hard time looking at things that I wrote before, things that I wrote that were not necessarily imperative, but just things that were for products and for customers. And now I'm revisiting that code going, why did I write it this way? It works, it just doesn't scale correctly. And that's exactly what brought me around to closure. I also have this harebrained idea of finishing that closure book with such zeal that I just start rewriting existing projects in Clojure, because the amount of stuff that it builds into it and the simplicity of the structure means that I would be able to rewrite some of these rather large projects in a much more simplistic manner, in a much more scalable manner. And I'm very, I'm very practical, which means that when I'm writing something, yeah, I'm aware of what is perfect. Yeah, I'm aware of what is good style and what is bad style. But I'm also aware of deadlines. So I understand that there are concessions to be made when you're working as a freelancer. But this is, I mean, if the change is as significant as I think it is, this is what the military call a force multiplier. Something that doesn't improve your efficiency or effectiveness. It doesn't double your efficiency or effectiveness. It improves it 10 times or more, while making everything more scalable, more simple, and more manageable by me. Someone who, or rather I should say an individual, because I don't, I'm no kingdom builder. That disgusts me. So yeah, I just implemented, see this, I sat at, I actually live streamed this, and it's pretty funny to watch. I think I'm going to post it. Let's see if it gets copyright struck. It has some Laserhawk, a Laserhawk album in it, which is awesome. And I turned off the audio because it was crazy at home. And I'm just like working on this problem and trying to, this is the thing. This is the thing, is you get your brain out of gear on a project and you get it into gear on another project, and then you step back to the previous project and you're like, what is this and why? Like, it's unnecessarily complex. And worse, I have, like, the version 1 was developed with certain things in mind, and now we're trying to kind of shoehorn in something that would be a big feature builder, but not a great, but it's not super easy. It was really actually just meant for version 2. So there's a lot of moving parts, and you need to get your brain into the gear where you've reread all of the relevant code, so you understand that when I change this is going to change that, and then everything is connected, which is the problem with non-functional programming. I mean, yeah, there's state, but it doesn't need to be spaghetti. Spaghetti code, that's an old phrase. Yeah, that's interesting. Spaghetti code was like it's probably still common. I don't know. Seems like it would still be in use. It's an old phrase that indicates, usually indicated a lot of go-tos. So your program was very difficult to discover the flow of when you were constantly bouncing go-to up here, go-to down there, go-to down here. You're sending the process all over the place on the code. And it wasn't necessarily that it was bad. Well, it is bad code, but it wasn't necessarily that it didn't work or that it wasn't efficient. It was that the code was difficult for humans to read. And that's not really forgivable. Because the machine doesn't care how many comments or explanations or how verbose and descriptive your function names are. The computer just runs. It just manages references. What takes skill is to make it understandable by other people. I was kind of struggling, and I feel that struggle now, struggling to explain the difference in object orientation, or I should say imperative programming, but object-oriented programming lends itself to this. There's a thing that Rich Hickey, I think that's his name, said in one of his talks. He said a word. The word was concretion. And I'm always happy when it's always a good day when I learn a new word, because I know a lot of words. But now when I code, I'm just like, I'm writing stuff and I'm like, concretion, this is a problem. Concretion is like a how would I describe it? A concretion is the act of like building something around a core, kind of like applying spackle to a ball, let's say. That's or perhaps if you had like a pylon that you were trying to make an anchor for a bridge or something like that, you would just keep adding rings of concrete to it to make it heavier and thicker and possibly more sturdy or more solid, but it doesn't necessarily aid in the function of the thing, the device, whatever's going on. So you're just layering concrete on top of whatever this is, and the thing that it is still just as functional. I kind of described it like an onion. It's just stuff that's... The onion is the stuff, but it's a bad example. Maybe, how about that? A caramel dipped apple. You take an apple, the apple's useful, and lots of people can use the apple. And you say, alright, apple, I'm going to make an object class out of you. And we're going to define rules for you and what apples are and how to interact with your apple. With you being an apple. And you dip it in some caramel. Well, now no one can see the apple, but they can see the shape, and they kind of have some idea that it's an apple. So they kind of know how to talk with it, and they can read your documents and understand how they're supposed to talk to the apple that's inside. But then someone else comes along and says, well, I have this apple, you have this apple, but I want to use it, but you didn't think about this use case. So I need to add another layer for talking about this particular type of thing. So we extend our class. We extend our apple class. And you add more, and the way you extend it is by dipping it in, rolling it in nuts. And then someone else comes along and says, well, you guys have done a great job, but what if you want to bake the apple? You didn't plan for that. Let me just add something that'll allow you to bake the apple. And you dip it in, red syrup or something. And the apple is still the apple. And at its core, no pun intended, it's still just an apple. And everyone can use an apple. It is just data. But we get these ideas of what the data should and shouldn't be, and what we can and can't do with the data based on our constraints. And we just start building stuff around it. It's unnecessary complexity. That is a concretion. I think I've done a terrible job of explaining that. But yeah, this has definitely made me a better programmer, which is kind of a harsh thing to say, to come back to my code and be like, this is not well written. At least from my current perspective. Working code is working code, but yeah. All right. Have a good weekend.